Alright you guys, welcome back to another deck list. Today we're going to be talking about Exeggutor Bats. Now Exeggutor Bats I think is one of the, I can't remember where it's ranked. I think it's really high on the list. I think we ranked it a little bit high to start the tournament, but as we've started to test it, I think we're questioning ourselves a little bit. But anyways, this list was originally Luxio Bats. We use the item lock from Luxio to kind of control your opponent while sniping with Crobat, Greninja, and then moving around with Dusknoir. And that sort of thing, but since Grady and I decided to ban Luxio and Vileplume for this tournament, Exeggutor just kind of takes the place and we just keep that same sort of list. And I'm betting you anything that Ghastly is going to be one of the main attackers in this list. You're going to be using that Pitch Dark Ghastly more so than anything else. But the Exeggutor will help too to stop just some kind of random thing. As long as you can keep their download off of the field, then Exeggutor might be able to, do enough to kind of carry you throughout the game. A quick word on Luxio and Vileplume. Grady and I have kind of determined, or more so Grady because he's been playing with Kyle and I've been over here in Spokane crying, but he's kind of determined that Luxio and Vileplume are just by and far the best decks in the format. Like, just straight up, the way that the not meta shifted, but the way that we've kind of adjusted our decks, they just lose to Vileplume and Luxio pretty hard. Like, if we were to go to a tournament tomorrow and we'd play one of those two decks and just kind of smash. There's not a lot of tech options against that. Recently, Grady's been playing a 1-1 Garbodor line in Kingdra with unknown Q to get out of item lock in terms of Vileplume, and that's the way to beat it. And so that might be something that needs to get teched into a lot more decks nowadays, which is kind of weird. What you would do is just kind of take out a 1-1 Porygon line. You take out the backup one. While backup is good, it's always, I think a lot of people have come to the conclusion that you just don't get it out every single game. So you could take that out in favor of a 1-1 Garbodor line and then find one more spot for an unknown Q or even a Klefki or even both and kind of counter Vileplume decks that way. But that's just kind of more on the meta. We're kind of talking about Exeggutor right now. You're just going to be using Blockade over and over again while taking chip damage with Crobat and Greninja. And then you're going to try to lock something in the active with Dragalge. You really, it's kind of weird because you really only have the Hypnotoxic Laser for poison, but that's all you need. You put Dragalge down, you catch her up a Claydol, you Hypnotoxic Laser it, and you just kind of blockade them into oblivion. And if the Claydol's about to die, you just use Dusknoir to move the damage back down to their bench, essentially locking them out of game, hopefully winning a quick game that way. So the rest of the stuff in this list is just kind of support that. There is some damage boosters in the form of Black Belt, and I think Black Belt, Hypnotoxic Laser. That's kind of ways to get you extra damage. You really only have Muscle Band because you really want the Muscle Band on the Exeggutor. You don't need much else. Crobat and Greninja, obviously, your ways of dealing that extra damage, that chip damage per turn. If you can stop them early game, you don't need to knock out their big Pokemon. This deck will struggle against those big GX decks because if they can get that GX out and start slaying Exeggutors like over and over again, it might, the game might derail really quickly for Exeggutor. But if it can get those early game control situations, then the sky's the limit for this deck. I don't think there's anything else really weird to talk about this deck. It's really just blockade and chip damage, and then everything else to kind of support that. We are playing the one Porygon Z from Triumphant. That's just kind of a way to reuse your laser to, you instead of going the route where you de-evolve Porygon and re-evolve it with Broken Time Space to reuse download or backup. Instead, it's evolve into Porygon Z, Dimension Transfer, and then de-evolve it so you can use your download and your backup. It's just kind of the alternative way of doing it. And then Porygon Z will help you get that Hypnotoxic Laser back or the de-evolution spray back for your Crobat and Greninja and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, if you have any questions on this list, please let me know. It is kind of a weirder one. Grady, if you message the Facebook page, Grady will probably be the one to respond with this one because he's a lot more versed with this deck. I'm just kind of putting it in the tournament, and it was the Luxio substitute deck. So, yep, if you have any questions, please let us know. If not, have a great rest of your day.